Hello again, my dear YouTube folks. I have been gone for a while. I haven't checked exactly how long. It's been kind of crazy. I had a whole bunch of things going on at once, and this became something that wasn't as important. Still fat, still white, still me. Got a Swedish driver's license and a car, which has dramatically changed my world. Quit going to the gym for a while because of COVID-19, but I started back up last weekend. And this is the last little thing that I am starting back up. Formed a writing group, wrote about 6 chapters of a book. Working on that pretty standard, pretty steady. So might actually have a book one of these days. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if I was finished with my master's degree last time I talked to you guys. But I am, and I am also halfway through IB course. I will not be working a second year at Clip-On. I'll be moving to Malmo. But I think, I'm not sure about Malmo. Should not count chickens that are not hatched. But anyway, for the most part, this is a, hey, I'm back, warning you, letting you know, etc. But also I'll have a little bonus thing because I have friends that reminded me of things that I need to say. There's lots of things that I think are common knowledge that apparently are not. And I don't really think of them on my own unless somebody reminds me of them. So today's little moral lesson is appearances and empathy and how important those things can be. Swedes generally have a problem with empathy. They have there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. I think I've talked about this before. But empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's place. Sympathy is feeling sorry for somebody who's having a hard time. Most people are good with sympathy. They're like, oh no, something bad happened to you. I'm here for you. Or, oh no, you fell down. Let me help you. That's sympathy. But empathy is literally putting yourself in somebody else's place. Being able to understand things that that are not readily obvious. Being able to go, oh wow, I can see how that came across as a little racist. Or, oh yeah, me running in front of a crippled old guy, almost knocking him down. Woo, I should be more careful. When it's not pointed out to you, empathy allows you to put yourself in someone else's place and kind of see things from a different perspective. So one of the problems with Sweden's lack of empathy is that they can appear to be something that they are not. Like sexist, or racist, or homophobic, or other ists. There are lots of Swedes, and this isn't just Swedes. Some of the internationals I knew, especially ones from South Africa or Canada, they would say things not realizing that they sounded like a racist or a sexist. They weren't racist or sexist for the most part. Some of them might have been. But because they said things a certain way, they sounded as if they were racist or sexist. One example is I had a coworker who was very frustrated about the way that things were being run at this place and said, well, what do you expect? They talk all the time. It's just women. And that sounds really sexist. And he was just repeating a regular trope that many people think. And when pressed about it, he was like, no, I didn't mean all women. I just mean women who were in charge at Swedish schools. And I was like, well, that's way more specific. But you sounded really sexist. Or people who, even... okay. One more thing, and this is a little bit more of an expansion. There's 3 kinds of racism. There's 3 kinds of racism, and a lot of people in this part of the world only think one of them exists or is bad. So I guess we'll actually make this one 4.5 minutes into the video. We'll make this one about the 3 kinds of racism. The first kind of racism is the kind that everybody understands. It's, I hate black people, I'm going to hurt black people, I'm going to make black people's lives hard, I don't want black people living near me, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of racism is obvious. And I mean, it's subtle sometimes. People are sneaky about it because in most places in the world, they've learned to be ashamed of it, as well they should. You should be ashamed if you hate people because of the color of their skin. I know you can dislike people for a culture, but hating people for their race, no, fuck you. Uh, but that kind of racism, there are a lot of people who think that's the only kind that counts as racism, but it's not. We also have, yes, Violet, birds. We also have the second kind, which is the racism of lowered expectations. That's where you think that everybody in a group is kind of worse than you, or not as good as you. And there are a lot of people who, in the second kind, are like, oh yeah, you're one of the good ones. Like, most of them are bad, but you're good. I'm not racist, I gave you a compliment. So that one is the second kind, where you just assume that most people of that race, less than you, not as smart as you, not as strong as you, not as good as you, whatever kind of adjective basically where you assume all people of a race are a thing. And then there's some people who don't fit it, and that makes them more what? Or more like you. That works with sexism too. Finally, the last kind, the third kind, is fetishization. This is where you assume that everybody of a certain race is really good at something. Either really attractive, really talented, good at jumping, good at swimming, whatever. And if you attribute the assumption that everybody in a race is good at something, it can also be like you're super into people of the opposite sex of that race. If you like, oh, I just love Asian chicks, or oh, black chicks are so hot, or whatever, or oh, those Indian dudes, they are sexy. That's sounds like a compliment, but it's still really racist. And it's one of those things where assuming that all people of a race have rhythm or are good at, something, hockey, whatever, assuming that all people are good at something, that's still racism. Now, it's not as harmful as I'm going to hunt down all the black people and kill them. But that doesn't make it not racism. That doesn't make it something that they should be happy and comfortable with. It doesn't mean that they should be good with it. Because that's them having... You're assuming something based on a single adjective about them. And that doesn't really work. There are lots of people... And there are lots of adjectives that go together. If you are vegan, you might be particularly health conscious. You might work out a lot. Those two things are often related. They might be together regularly, but they're not assumed. There are vegans who are lazy. And so when you put two adjectives together and say that are not actively connected, if you run every day and you're in pretty good shape, those are actively connected. But if you're in really good shape, you may not assume that you run every day. You might do other things. You might row, you might eat well, you might just be really lucky. The same can be said when it comes to race. There are lots of people who are of a race that are particularly strong, quick, have good rhythm, are good at math, whatever weird racist assumption you're making. But it's still racist. So try to rein it in. Try to be, and the thing is, you may not be racist in your heart. You may recognize that everybody is equal and that you just happen to like a particular thing. Or you may recognize, that other people, the culture you have been exposed to makes people act a certain way that you like or don't like. That's fine too. But when you attribute it solely to race, solely to the color of someone's skin, which really is only tied to where their ancestors grew up. It's literally, it's if you grew up in a place with lots of sun, your skin is darker. If you grew up in a place without lots of sun, your skin is lighter. That's pretty much it. Only correlation. That's making assumptions based on racist is racist. Even if those assumptions are good, even if those assumptions are complimentary by your opinion, it's still racist. So, tying it all back together, empathetically, using empathy, you might want to make sure that the assumptions you're making about someone are clear. And you might want to say, you might not, if something sounds racist, think it through. Think it through just for a moment. If somebody says, wow, that sounds kind of racist, think about whether it actually is. And if it is, go ahead and admit it. Go, yeah, I guess it kind of was. How should I say that? And they may not know. Lots of people don't. Lots of people have no idea how to deal with racism, or sexism, or any other ism, ageism, sizeism. But being willing to acknowledge that you don't understand exactly what it means, that's huge. Being able to acknowledge, yeah, okay, that thing I said might have been a little racist or might have been a little bit sexist. And then try to be better. Because none of us are perfect. Most of us have made horrible mistakes and sounded, awful at some point in time. I know I've said some racist things. My racist stuff was pretty far back. My sexist stuff, I caught myself saying something sexist last year on YouTube. You guys probably saw it if you're watching this video, if you're still with me at this point. But it's one of those things where we're not perfect. And we shouldn't, get upset or sad when we make a mistake. We should just try to be better. Now, that also doesn't mean you shouldn't be ashamed when you say something racist or sexist or horrible. You should. But that sole purpose should be to fix future behavior. It shouldn't beat yourself up. You shouldn't nail yourself to a cross or whatever it is that you do to, deal with guilt. So that's the video, and I'm back. I am back, and I'm mostly healthy. My wife and I have managed to avoid any COVID, despite the fact that she has not had an extra day off for anything. And I think the next video may be like how essential teachers are, but we are treated as completely non-essential. Like when asked, one of the important people in Sweden's program said things like, yeah, teachers aren't essential, so we're not going to, we don't really care about them. We're not going to give them tests because do we really need them? And yet, they're the ones who are still in a 700-person school, no particular things being taken, teachers aren't allowed to wear masks, kids aren't even washing their hands. And, teachers have died. They have. Sweden has way more people dead per capita than a lot of places near here. This is depressing. Anyway, so I'm alive. I have a car now. That means I go lots of places. I actually show up in Lund and Malmo and Helsingborg and stuff like that. So I can go on field trips. And I may start putting some of the field trip stuff here. Because, I want to have an active YouTube channel. It's just, I've been kind of really busy. I had SFE, training for driver's license. Man, this makes my hand look weird. And I was also teaching and making my own curriculum. And I was in college for IB stuff because I'm trying to get International Baccalaureate satisfied. And I was writing a book. And I was judging other people's books. And I was writing a D&D game. And not sleeping well. I got lots of excuses. Anyway, hope you guys are well. Hope you're all healthy. And hope that I can do another one of these next week so I can actually be, start this up again. You guys have a super great, it's a Monday, great day. And I'll see you around. Bye. Beep boop.